On the 2nd of May, 1997, I published an article on the net called Pioneers in Flamenco and Film, and part of my Desde el Escritorio de Randy Osborne series from the desk of Randy Osborne. I translated this from the Diccionario Enciclopédico del Flamenco, published in the late 1980s. It's a 2-volume, out-of-print, hardbound book with a lot of photos, a lot of data. And so I wrote that the silent silver screen came to Spain in 1896, and the first few shorts that were made reflected the Andalusian folklore, especially the dance. The first real specific flamenco movie dates from 1909. It starred the singer El Mochuelo and was made by Ricardo de Baños. In the year 1914, Jose Carrera contracted Pastoro Imperio for several films. The first film was entitled La Danza Fatale and was directed by Jose de Togoras. In 1916, the Italian producer Mario Casarini brought La Argentinita to the screen in Flor de Otoño. Pastora Imperio returned to the screen in 1917 in Gitana Cani. It was produced by Armando Poe and also starred Pastora's brother, guitarist Victor Rojas. In the 1920s, La Argentinita appeared in Rosario La Cortejera in 1923, produced by Jose Bux. In 1924, the dancer Mariquilla Ortega appeared in the biggest hit of the silent screen, Cine Mudo, as it's called in Espanol and Spanish, Santa Isabel de Ceres. It was produced by Jose Sobrado de Onega. In 1927, La Hermana San Sulpicio contained the debut of Imperio Argentina. In April of 1928, Rafael Salvador's film Rejas y Botas was released. It was a total failure publicly and critically. Though it had flamenco scenes, it was without any real guidelines of quality. At the end of 1929, the first version of La Copla Andaluza, a comedy by Pascual Guillen and Antonio Quintero, and it was directed by Ernesto Gonzalez. It was released at that time. I must say, you can look up these titles on YouTube. A lot of these films have come about. YouTube started in 2005, and I did this article on May 2nd, 1997. No one knew YouTube was going to come about, but I've copied and pasted. You can put this on the search bar for YouTube, and it'll bring up the film. You get to watch it. The first sound motion picture was produced by Florian Rey in 1929 and was titled Football, Amor y Toros. A star who appeared was the singer and recording artist Garita. With its mechanical defects at the dawn of the sound picture age, it was not a success. In 1932, Fernando Roldan directed the film El Sabor de la Gloria, which starred the singer Angelio and guitarist Luis Yance. A year later, Garita returned to the spotlight in El Relicario. It was directed by Ricardo Baños. The second version of La Hermana San Sulpicio was directed by Florian Rey in 1934 and starred once again Imperio Argentina at the height of her fame. Pepe El de la Matrona also sings sporadically in this film. In the same year, Benito Perojo directed El Negro que tenía el alma blanca, in which sang Angelio. In 1935, one of the most nourished representations of flamenco came to the screen. It was directed by Jose Bux and was titled Madre Alegría, which starred La Niña de la Puebla. Rosario La Cortejera was directed by Leon Artola and included Estrelita Castro, Niño de Utrera, and Niño Sabicas. Producer Fernando Roldan created Paloma de Mis Amores, which was the first starring role for Nino de Marchena, a great singer. The first version, which was the most popular, of La Hija de Juan Simón was directed by Jose Luis Sáenz de Heredia. It starred Julio, who sang the celebrated Milonga de Juan Simón. Carmen Amaya also acted in this film. The German producer Max Nosek made Una Aventura Oriental, which had as a part of its cast Garita. In 1936, besides a few shorts of Sabino Antonio Michon, which reflected flamenquismo, there appeared two more films with flamenco artist Francisco Elias, directed Maria de la O, starring Pastora Imperio and Carmen Amaya. Florian Rey directed Carmen de la Triana, which also starred Imperio Argentina and Don Ramon Montoya, greatest guitarist of flamenco. Florian Rey made another film with Imperio Argentina called Morena Clara, based on a work by Guillén y Quintero. During the Civil War, the debut of Amor Gitana, directed by Alfonso Benavides, casted once again Garita. Also in 1937, he made a short with Carmen Amaya and Brujo del Fandango with Sabicas in Cuba. Also has her brother playing guitar, sitting at a table. In the 1940s, films produced, like almost every post-war period, had a true explosion of nationalism, better or worse understood, that had invaded the theaters. Among the nationalist elements occupying the primordial position was folklorism, although rarely it would bring the authentic Spanish folklore, and overall it was looking for more than quality commercial potential. Two films that starred Nino de Marchena came to the theaters in Madrid in 1940. La Dolores, directed by Florian Rey, was also cast Conchita Piquer, the other being Martinala, directed by Fernando Minoni. Pastora Imperio starred in La Marquesa, and it was directed by Eusebio Fernandez Ardavin. The following year, Fernando Rivero directed Carmen Amaya in Seda, Sangre y Sol. Ignacio Fernandez de Iquino directed Trini Barul in Alma de Dios. Carmen Amaya was also directed by Saul Hurek in Original Gypsy Dances in 1941, which also featured Sabicas. Nino del Brillante was directed by Alejandro Galindo in Ni Sangre Ni Arena, means not blood, not sand. In 1942, Mercedes Barul, La Gitana Blanca, worked in Malvaloca. In 1943, Eusebio F. Ardavin made Fora de Almas, which narrated the life of educator Andres Manjon and portrayed folkloric scenes of the Sacramento in Granada, the Sacramento in Granada. In 1944, Carmen Amaya made Sueños de Gloria with Sabicas. It was directed by Edward Sutherland. She also made Pierna de Plata with her family troupe, directed by Harry Joe Brown. Lola Flores and her song starred in Alegrias, directed by Jesus Rey. Antonio Guzman Marino made Macarena with Mercedes Barul and Juanita Reina. Floria Rey debuted as Ana Maria, which had a cameo by Nino de Marchena. In 1945, Juan De Orduna, one of the most characteristic figures of national cinema at that time, appeared in Leyenda de la Feria with Trini Barul and Nino de Constantina. Juan De Orduna also was in Lola Se Va a los Puertos with Juanita Reina, Pepe Pinto, accompanied by Melchor de Marchena, great player. Taking advantage of the popularity of the couple, Lola Flores and Manolo Caracol, Carlos Serrano de Osma offered them roles in Embrujo in 1947. It was panned by the critics. In the end of the 40s, a flamenco dance drew the most attention. Carmen Amaya was directed by Jose Diaz Morales in Pasión Gitana in 1948. Florian Rey directed Jose Greco in Brindis a Manolete. Participating also were Rafael Romero, Manolo Manzanilla, Luis Maravilla, and Rosa Duran. Another film directed by Jose Diaz Morales in 1949 was La Revoltosa, which starred Vicente Escudero, great dancer, choreographer. Adolfo Aznar directed the dancing duo of Antonio Rosario in El Rey de Sierra Morena in 1949. Also in the same year, Antonio Roman coached Pastora Imperio, Manolo Vargas, and Ana Esmeralda in El Amor Brujo. Besides all these feature films, documentary shorts such as Sevillana, 1941, Fandanguillo, 1942, Pregones del Embrujo. In those years, flamenco was episodic and at times was purely in the background of the scenes. The folkloric movies, for the most part, had little artistic ambition or cinematic sense, and some directors had little technical preparation. What was tried fundamentally was to make a star of someone whose fame was from recordings and theater spectaculars and into getting a secure foothold on the silver screen. The singers Estrelita Castro, Lola Flores, Conchita Piquer, Juanita Reina, Imperio Argentina, Gracia del Triana, and Julio, Miguel de Molina, that create the dreams of the public with their lyrics and the music of the maestros Azagra, Quintero, Leon, Quiroga, Ochaita, Solano, Valero, etc. In the 1950s, save the honorable exceptions such as Duende y Misterio starring Pilar Lopez and Luis Maravilla, the lean was toward commercialism, inundating the screen were Lola Flores, El Principe, Gitano, Antonio Molina, principally. Edgar Neville's film Duende y Misterio, by being definitively most consecrated in the history of flamenco cinema, deserves attention. Edgar Neville brought flamenco to the screen in 1946, in which a quadro performed in Traje de Luces. It was his Duende y Misterio which debuted in Madrid on December 15th, 1952. It's the day that Tárrega passed away in 1909. That was praised highly by the most demanding critics. For better or worse, it was undoubtedly a force causing investigation of the background of flamenco. We see La Bernada and La Fernanda dancing. They were teenagers. It was fabulous. The film was conceived as a succession of sequences with every scene dedicated to the song or dance and within the evocative mark of style, documentative or informative. It didn't have a storyline and was not in need of one. The most memorable artists that took part were Pilar Lopez, Antonio Ruiz Soler, Jacinto Almaden, Aurelio de Cadiz, Antonio Mairena, Bernada, and Soler, Jacinto Almaden, Aurelio de Cadiz, Antonio Mairena, Bernada, and Fernanda de Utrera, Pepe de Badajoz, Rafael de Jerez, Luis Maravilla, El Poeta, Mercedes Broco, and Pasita Tomas. Besides dancing in Duende y Misterio, Antonio also made Nebla y Sol. In 1951, he was directed by Jose Maria Forqué and also had Rosario in the cast. In 1953, Maurice Clausch directed Noches Andaluces. In the following year, Jose Luis Sainz de Heredia directed Todo es Posible in Granada. Later in 1958, Javier Seto directed Panamor y Andalucía. Also in the same year, Michael Powell directed Carmen Sevilla in Luna de Miel. Pepe Marchena y Antonita together were directed by Raul Alfonso in the 1954 release La Reina Mora. Also in the cast was singer Jose Cepero and guitarists Andres Heredia and Benito de Merida. In 1955, Ramon Torrado directed Angelillo and Suspiros de Triana. Ricardo Nunez made Tremolina in 1956. Lola Flores, being a permanent figure in the 50s, appeared in the film Jack El Negro in 1950. Was directed by Gillian Duvivier. Lola also appeared with Manolo Caracol in Ramon Torrado's 1951 release La Niña de la Venta. After the artistic separation of Caracol, she started another Torrado film, 1952, Estrella de Sierra Morena. Florian Ray directed Lola in his film La Danza de los Deseos in 1954. In the same year, Luis Lucia directed her in Morena Clara. Also in the same year, with the same director, she appeared in La Hermana Alegría in 1957 under Miguel Zacarias' direction. She also made Mari Cruz. Also in 1957, she appeared in Torrado's remake of Maria de la O. 1958 brought her to the screen in Fernando Cortés' Échame la Culpa. Later in the same year, she was directed by Enrique Cahen in Venta y Vargas. Antonio Molina was directed by Luis Lucia in El Piallo in 1955. Antonio also appeared in El Pescador de Coplas, directed by Antonio de El Amo in 1953. Luis Lucia also directed Antonio in Esa Voz es una Mina, 1955. Gonzalo del Gras directed Antonio in the 1956 remake of La Hija de Juan Simón. Ricardo Nunez also directed him in the 1956 release of Malagueña. Gonzalo del Gras also directed Antonio in 1957 in El Cristo de los Faroles. Enrique Vargas, El Principio Gitano, appeared in Jose Buch's 1953 film Brindis al Cielo. Enrique was also in Miguel Iglesias' 1955 film Veraneo en España. In 1956, Enrique also appeared in Iglesias' film Herederos en Apuros. A remake of La Copla Andaluza by Geronimo Mijura in 1959 starred Rafael Farina, Adelfa Soto, Parina de Badajoz, La Paquera de Jerez, Fernanda Romero, El Sevillano, and Benny de Cadiz. Antonio Malplay directed Imperio Argentina in 1951 in the film Café Cantante. Luis Lucia directed Ana Esmeralda and Lola La Piconera in 1952. Also in 1952, Jose Maria Elareta directed Ana and Maria Dolores. One of the last works of Florian Ray was in 1954, Cruz de Mayo, starring Manolo El Malagueño. In 1953, Luis Torreblanca directed Niño Ricardo in El Festival de las 3D. A lot of 3D movies very well thought of in the 1950s. It didn't take place into decades later. But you used to walk in and wear glasses and you could see the stuff in 3D. Juanito Valderrama appeared in El Rey de la Carretera in 1954 by Juan Fortuny, which also included the music of Niño Ricardo and the dance of Gracia de Sacramonte. La Chunga danced in Jose Maria Forque's 1959 film De Espaldas a la Puerta. In the following decade, besides Lola Flores, El Principe Gitano, and Antonio Molina, brought to the screen were Rocio Jurado, Perret, dancers and choreographers, Rafael de Cordova and Antonio Gaddis, among others. The number of films that were folkloric flamenco decreased in comparison to the previous decade. Producers took into account that the audience was not what it once was. In 1963, Francisco Rivera Boleta produced Los Tarantos, which was based on Alfredo Maña's theater work Historia de los Tarantos. It related a beautiful yet tragic story of the love of two gypsies belonging to rival families, a grand creation, not only having dance but drama as well. Carmen Amaya made this film a year before she passed away. Sara Lezana, in the beginning of her career, played Juana La Zoronga, the girlfriend. Other actors in Los Tarantos were Antonio Gaddis and El Chocolate. Although it was a film from years ago, it is still much requested in PAX theaters. Los Tarantos was nominated for an Oscar. Great, huh? Another film by Rivera Boleta was a remake of El Amor Brujo. It had a musical adaptation by Ernesto Halfter and music by classical guitarist Narciso Yepes. In 1960, Gonzalo Del Gras brought Antonio Molina and Rafael Farina and the dancer Maria Albacin to the screen in Café de Chinitas. In 1961, the same pair, Molina Farina, were directed by Santos Alcocer in Puente de Coplas, which also starred Perina de Badajoz and Maria Ana Mariscal. Ana Mariscal, as director, made the film Feria de Sevilla in 1964. It starred Perinas de Badajoz, Ana La Tomata, Maria Rosa, the off-screen voices of La Niña de los Pienes, Juanito Valderrama, Argentina Corral, and Dolores Vargas. Joaquin Bolo Moro contracted the couple Juanito Valderrama, Dolores Abril to appear in 2 consecutive films, Gitana with El Guatito in 1965 and Barro y Oro in 1966. Juanito and Dolores were invited to participate in Armando de Osorio's movie La Niña del Patio in 1967. It was about the life of singer Estrelita Castro. Pio Ballesteros in 1964 made the screenplay by Guillen y Quintero into the movie El Alma de la Copla. The cast, headed by El Príncipe Gitano, included Adolfo y Pepe Soto, La Niña de la Puebla, Juan Varea, Jacinto Almadín, and the recorded voices of Antonio Chacon, Sayago, and Luquitas de Marchena. Among the films of Juan Antonio Bardem in this decade, there were 2 with flamenco participation, although minimal. Las Cinco de la Tarde, 1960, with Jarrito, and the other Los Pianos Mecánicos, 1965, with Maria Albacin. El Príncipe Gitano y Rafael Farina shared the lead in J.M. Zabalza's 1966 work El Milagro del Cante. Jesus Yaguate brought to the screen Jarrito, Fosforito, Juan Vargas, Enrique El Colata, El Della Escudero, and Jose Osuna in the 1966 production of Los Flamencos. In Silvio F. Balbuena's 1967 film Los Celos y el Duende, the cast included Perinas de Badajoz, Jarrito, Fosforito, Juan Varea, Flor de Córdoba, Carmen Rojas, Felix de Utrera, and flamenco cuadros from the Tablaos, El Corral de la Morella, and Las Cuevas de Nemesio. Antonio Gaddis starred in Mario Camus's 1967 film Con el Viento Solano. Also in that movie were Imperial Argentina and Vicente Escudero. Antonio Gaddis also appeared in the Antonio Asis's Ultimo Encuentro in 1966. In 1964, Luis Martinez Valiente, Maria Rosa, and Fosforito starred. Valiente's star was the bullfighter Jaime Ostos. Documentaries made at this time included Fernando Payeras and Manuel Gutierrez Terrero. Manuel Gutierrez Terrero's Antonio and Las Cuevas de Nerja, and Julian de la Flor's Llanto y Saeta in Sevilla. Llanto y Saeta in Sevilla, both made in 1963. The most notable film of the 1970s is Leda Raza. I've got that. 1970. It's based on the novel by Ildefonso Manuel Gil. Was directed by Jose Luis Gonzalvo. Stars Antonio and La Chunga. In 1975, Julio Diamantes La Carmen starred Julian Mateos, Sarah Lezana, Rafael de Cordoba, Enrique El Cojo, Enrique Morente, El Awajete, great singer. The guy Sigarias is insane. El Bico, Enrique de Melchor, Pepe de Lucia, and the Cuadro from Tablao, Las Brujas. A documentary short worth mention is Miguel Alcobenda's Cantes de Malaga, made in 1974. Carlos Saura, in the last decade, produced 3 films with Antonio Gades: Bodas de Sangre in 1981 with Cristina Hoyos, El Guito, Jose Merced Gomez de Jerez, Manolo Sevilla, and Antonio Solera. Then in 1983, Carmen with Cristina Hoyos, Lara del Sol, Paco de Lucia, Gomez de Jerez, Manolo Sevilla, Antonio Solera. This film, Carmen, won 2 prizes in the Cannes Film Festival, Best Artistic Contribution and Best Technical Quality. And in 1986, El Amor Brujo, again with Hoyos and Del Sol, along with Rocio Jurado, singing and acting by La Polaca, Enrique Ortega, Diego Pantoja, y Gomez de Jerez. In 1984, Nicolas Asturiaga directed Maria Maya in Corre Gitano. Also appearing were Carmen Cortez, singer Manuel de Paula, Miguel Lopez, Miguel El Rubio, and the guitars of Angel Cortez and Chuscales. In 1984, Jaime Camino made the film El Balcón Abierto with Jose Merced, Juan Habituela, and Ricardo El Veneno. So this ends in 1984. In the 1990s, we had Flamenco by Carlos Saura, but this book was published, I believe, in 1988. And this comes from the Diccionario Enciclopédico del Flamenco, 2-volume hardbound series. Get it. It's out of print. It was out of print when I bought it. I think I paid $225 for it 30 years ago. I'm a real aficionado del flamenco. I've been playing flamenco guitar, classical guitar, since 1978. I started playing guitar in 1964, about 2 months after the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan.